Welcome to Archery Country Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to Archery Country Podcast. This is Big Waite as we are in the St. Cloud studio doing things a little bit different on this podcast. We're shooting from the hip, more or less. Unscripted. We're going to be on the entertainment value, so we're going to switch things up a little bit. We appreciate each and every one of you listening to us. As I said, we are in the Waite Park location. I have the manager of managers, Brandon. We know him as Buck. I always say your last name wrong.
Lohman.
Big B is with us. And across the way, I have Adam Kramer. He's the newest member to Archery Country and kind of made his home back up here. We're going to have some fantastic stories because we also have Jon, who's directly to my right, another manager of Archery Country. Actually, you two and Dan have been the three longest employees. Mm-hmm. So we got it. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Pretty
cool.
Awesome, yeah.
So as we go through this little river channel, we're going to branch off from time to time. Lifestyles of the rich and famous, of the pro shop guys is where we're going to be at. And we're going to kind of, we've always asked, you give us a little background and so on and so forth, but we're going to really elaborate not only your background, but what the pro shop is for you and how you came about and what your passions are. So we really kind of take an in-depth search to each and every one of you three guys sitting here. And we're going to do this at the Brainerd location with those guys and, of course, Rogers as well. So Cricket's on the line. Buck, we might as well start with you, if you're cool with it. Reason being, you've been here the longest, the oldest employee, not age-wise, but
I'm getting up just about,
yeah. We don't take the hats off anymore. Salt and pepper is with us. But take us. I know we've heard about your past and your passions, but like, when did you get started with this? Was this an accident? Did you just roll in? Have you been doing it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, archery started, I don't remember how old I was, maybe 10 years old. And for Christmas one year, I got a little Bear Brave or some type of bow like that where, no sight, you just shot arrows, flung them around. So I was out in the yard just shooting, having a good time. My dad was a bow hunter, but he was more of a weekend warrior, more of a gun guy. So he would go out and shoot his bow a couple times before he'd practice, before the season started. And, hunting was maybe 3-4 sits a year for him. So for archery, for me, I kind of had taught myself more than anything. Taught myself, of course, all the wrong things. But I was probably 13 or 14 years old maybe when I got my first real bow and started hunting. And then from there, it just kind of, I don't remember exactly, I'm getting up there in age, but it just kind of progressed from there. I got more and more into it. When I was 19, 20, somewhere in there, I'm going to college up here in St. Cloud. I would come to Archery Country to get some of my archery supplies, and just so happened one day one of the guys that was working here asked if I was looking for a job, and sure, boom. At the time I needed a job going to college, and I was right up here. It's close by school, and that's where it all started. Started working here and kept going to school, and once I got done with school, I'm like, hey, I like this. I like dealing with people, and I like hunting. I like archery, and it just kind of progressed from there, and here I am. Still here.
So just to give a little insight without going way too deep into family history, but Archery Country, for those of you that know, Jake Sloanigan is the owner of Archery Country, but his dad, Vic, and then also there's a few others involved, but were they the owners when you started?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Yep. Jake and Vic had probably had the store for, I'm guessing 2 or 3 years when I started here.
Okay.
So when I first started working here, it was pretty much me, Jake and Vic, and, maybe another guy here and there, but.
At this location?
Yes, at the St. Cloud store, yep. Gotcha. Yep. Which at the time was the only store we had.
Right.
Yep.
And then as things progressed, obviously graduated college and then life began.
Right.
And this was still a major part of your life?
Yeah. Just like I said, I liked it. I like dealing with the people and the customers. It's fun. People come in here, they want to be here, and, helping people pick out their equipment, talking to them about their hunts and how successful they were, and, just the excitement that people have when they are in here talking about shooting, talking about their equipment, talking about the hunts they went on. That's just fun.
And I think it adds a lot, even being down in Rogers, and Adam, you worked in Rogers for a period of time, even there, which is 45 minutes if you're flying on I-94. There's a ton of customers that drop Buck's name. Buck set a bow up for me in St. Cloud. Like, before I even knew what a bow was, really, Buck was hooking them up. And I say Buck, it's Brandon, but that's what we all go by. So
it's actually my middle name.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, see, we're learning more.
There you go.
I'm not making shit up. I promise. We're doing it. But so as you progressed as a pro shop or a bow technician, then things started to open up because, one, knowledge is key, but then your passion, not only from family but for hunting,
right,
it expanded as well.
Right, correct. Yeah, so that went from hunting Minnesota only whitetails into, as I got into it and started working with Jake, he had been turkey hunting. I'd never even thought about turkey hunting before. And so I started turkey hunting with him a little bit. And so now I'm hunting whitetails, I'm hunting turkeys. Next thing I know, I'm going out of state to hunt turkeys, then deer, then mule deer. And yeah, so just things kept progressing. And that's truly my passion is the hunting side of it. I like setting people up with equipment for their hunts and talking to them about it. I like doing the research for my own stuff, whether it's what preference points am I going to put in for, what states am I going to go to. But really for me, the passion on my end of it is the hunting side of it.
And you've been very successful, and things have, and again, that helps out meeting guys in the industry, guys and gals,
right?
Connections, having the ability to have somebody scout for you, more or less. Wouldn't be something that maybe would, if you worked at Best Buy,
right?
You probably wouldn't have those connections that you have here, and things carry on. So as we talk about, another passion, I want to go down that road as well, especially you're out west hunting, because you're one of the more successful guys that we got on the crew. But you said something key, when somebody that they want to be in here, when they come through the door, there's a reason they're here. Even if it is to look around, there's something, that word passion, I'm going to dissect that and terribly ruin it, but there's a reason that they come in. And I think it's strongly, the four of us that are sitting here, is when you can read a customer and then they give you just a couple short sentences or paragraph on what they're going to do, there's something for you to work on.
Right.
To build the best, whatever it may be for their situation. Might not always be a bow, but that's something that I think us guys here, including a couple others, we're not just part-timers. We're not just, making hours meet and getting a paycheck. We like to solve situations. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, out west. I don't know if you released pictures of your big dog this year or last year or the year before, Item. But
the albums.
Yeah. Why is that so strong? Why is that? Is it?
I think it's like, for me, going after mule deer, it's the terrain they live in, and it's just a different hunt and I love whitetail hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to beat. But you go from sitting in the stand for hours on end to, when I'm mule deer hunting, I'm glassing for maybe 15, 20 minutes in the morning. And if I'm not seeing anything, I'm on the move. And it's all day long until I'm, sometimes I'll see deer and I'm glassing them for a couple hours, but otherwise I'm always moving around. You're making something happen. The terrain that they're in, they're just neat creatures. I can't quite put my finger exactly why I love it so much, but it's hard to beat being out west and in that, whether it's the Dakotas or Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, any of that stuff. The country's just beautiful, and just being out there and being able to put the miles on. John, I know you're the same. Mm-hmm. It's different. Yeah, and I would say anybody that hasn't done it, like even if it's an antelope hunt or anything, just to get out west to try it, it's really fun.
Let me ask you this personal question. Do you love it enough to where if you sucked at it, would you still do it?
Well, I mean, there's definitely been some trips where I'm coming home saying that I suck at this. Yeah, I've felt that way
I always
plenty
like
of
to
times.
ask that, because it's not all bread and butter.
Right. I think if you were successful like every time you went and it was easy, it wouldn't be. It's a challenge, and I think that's what makes it really fun is when you are successful finally, and it's not every trip, it's not every day, right? But when it does finally happen, the feeling that you have is pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
And then you're
getting the point now with your boys.
Right.
I don't know if they've went out of state with you.
Not out of state
They're
yet.
getting preference points, but you've had some successful hunts here with the boys.
Right. Yep.
And some videos. So that's, now it's a whole new chapter.
Right.
That you can start writing and sharing and teaching, and so that they may not even like going out west in 20 years, but in a sense, you know.
At the moment, that's kind of the next journey, I guess, in my hunting is the last few years. Me and my boys have been turkey hunting. They're 7 and 10 now. So we've had some success with that. They're having fun with it. My son shot his first deer this year during the Minnesota youth season.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I plan on, hopefully if they stay into it, taking them out west here in the next few years, getting some preference points, and maybe doing an antelope trip, mule deer trip, something like that.
Yeah. As far as getting to know everybody, this is for all three of you guys. You get into depth as much as you want or don't at all. Personal life. Like, what's the lifestyle of Brandon outside of these doors? I mean, obviously your boys are busy.
Right. We're busy. In the winter right now, it's both my boys at the moment are in wrestling, so that's going constant. So it's a lot of kid activities right now. School stuff, sporting activities. We do a little ice fishing, but for the most part during the school year, it's their sporting activities, and I'm always researching and planning for what I'm going to do next year. So that's what currently I'm doing. I know John's doing that too. We're starting to think about what tags am I going to put in for, what preference points am I getting for certain states, certain species, and so that goes on for me. As soon as the season ends here, that's kind of all the way from late winter here, December, January, until application seasons are done, which takes you for most part all the way into June. So it's a lot of researching and planning. And
so the out west kick, or the out of state hunts, doesn't have to be out west. That it's more than just getting in the truck and driving 15 hours and getting out hunt. There's a process,
which I really enjoy that. That's part of the fun for me is doing all the research, looking at maps, looking at units, looking at statistics, and just figuring out what species I want to go, what state I want to go, what public tracts of land I want to hunt, and scouting that stuff. That's a lot of fun.
So realistically, your out-of-state hunts, are more than just a week. I mean, we're talking months.
Right.
And we haven't even dabbled in the preparation of your equipment and shooting. And I mean, let's just take that for granted that we're going to do that.
Right.
But,
of course, you're getting your equipment ready, you're shooting your bow, you're dialing your stuff in, but a lot of it for me is before all that, and that comes in the summer and leading up to the hunt. But before all that, it's the research you're doing and trying to give yourself the best opportunity to be successful. And a lot of that can be done. There's so much technology with Onyx Maps and Google Earth. You can get on all these states' websites and look through draw statistics and harvest success rates, and there's a lot of info out there.
And if you haven't already put this, I guess, in your mind of you, the cool thing about this is the lifestyle. I mean, this is our life. And if I was listening to this podcast and I had a mule deer hunt in western North Dakota that I may or may not have done before, now I kind of have an idea of who we're talking with. And that's the idea behind these podcasts is we're not over here. We haven't said a product's name yet, and we're not going to. We're just visiting. And I think this is going to open up a lot of ears, because as we move down the line, John's going to be different from Adam, and Adam's going to be different from me, and so on and so forth. And we go to Rogers, and the guys up north, they're crazy different. Everybody's got a different passion. So I'm going to come back to you.
Yep.
John, let's dabble a little bit. Same scenario.
Okay.
Different wheels on the cart.
Okay.
How do you mind if I ask how old you are? You're older.
No, I'm not that.
When I say you're not. I'm trying to put a platform out here.
I think I am 32. If that's what you're getting at.
He thinks.
Yeah.
Okay, we know
32 going on 33.
How many years have you been here?
At Archery Country?
Yeah.
I started April of 2011.
Perfect. Okay, that
You
gives
remember
us.
that, but you can't remember how old you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta,
Remembers when I cashed the check.
Well,
right here.
that's a shorter time span, easier to remember.
Gotcha.
All right. Same story when you got started. How did you get started? Hunt doesn't have to be archery. Hunting, outdoors.
Well, yeah. So archery wise, or like hunting wise in general, I've been from a bow hunting standpoint or hunting in general, I think I got started shooting bow right around 10 years old. My dad bow hunted. He didn't like gun hunt deer around here. My family doesn't like own any land around here or anything like that. So he had some family friends. He bow hunted on their land, and it wasn't really the norm, I don't think, to be a bow hunter back then. It was a gun hunting thing. But he enjoyed the peace and the serenity of going out and sitting in the tree stand. I think it was his way to relax from work, kind of thing. And it was like his thing. But I remember even like being younger when he would be in the yard in the summertime, shooting fingers, shooting old school wheel bow. And like, if he was out shooting in the yard, I was sitting there right there watching him. I was watching where the arrows hit the target. And even then it was like, man, this is really cool. I can't wait to grow up someday and like do this. And I think I got a bow for like my 10th birthday, if I remember right. And I was a scrawny little dude back in the day. I think you had to pull 40 pounds to start legally hunting in Minnesota. And when I started, I was nowhere near that. So it took me a long time to build that strength up. And like, that was my goal. Like, I've got to keep going. I got to keep pulling this bow back. I got to get to that 40-pound minimum. To the point where I remember like in the wintertime, the year before leading up to like the next year I was going to be 12, I was nowhere near that 40 pounds yet. I kept my bow in the basement during like commercial breaks for TV. I would go and draw my bow back and hold it and let it back down and draw it and hold it and let it back down. Never even shooting an arrow.
No, that's awesome.
I knew I wanted to hunt. Just the outdoors, it was from day one or young as I can remember. I just wanted to be outside and play around and go build forts and be an outdoorsy guy. It was cool. But then one of my buddy's dads was really into like bow hunting at that time and like kind of into target shooting. And I remember going over to their house as a kid and like he had a trophy room. He had a man cave. And, it was like 7 or 8 of these 120-inch bucks. And I would go down there and just like be in awe. I'd just go and stare in their room. Like I was there to hang out with my buddy and I would just go downstairs and look at his dad's man cave for 10, 20 minutes every time I was there. I was like, man, I want this one day, And then his dad reliving the stories of hunting out of state already and that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, someday that's going to be me. That's going to be sweet. That's right up my alley. So I think I first year hunting, I never shot a deer. 12 years old, went through the whole season. And the very first night I actually hunted, I had a doe and like 2 fawns come into range, old school Parker bow at 40 pounds, 2-prong rest, basic 3-pin sight, and I was shaking so bad with this doe at like 15 yards. I couldn't keep my arrow on my rest. I think I tried drawing back 4 or 5 times, and eventually I just stood there holding my bow for like 10 minutes, and it got dark and I couldn't shoot anymore. And it was like,
but you're hooked.
That was legit. I want more of this,
And it's, I'd never done drugs, so I don't know what that's all about, but it is a form of, it's an addiction.
Oh, for sure.
That feeling.
Yeah.
For our listeners, and a vast majority of our listeners are going to know exactly what you're talking about at this moment. So you're hunting and you progressed. Did you work outside of this shop, or how did that transition take place?
Oh, how did I start here?
Yeah.
I actually I had a lot of different jobs growing up. Starting in high school, I worked, basically the second you get your license and you can start working and paying for gas. Back in the day, you had to. It was a lot cheaper back then. Also, $10 lasted a couple weeks, But I worked a bunch of different jobs for all over the board, from a field scout for an agronomist to delivering pizzas, making pizzas. Worked at an office supply store for a bunch of years. And I shopped here a lot. So my parents actually owned a retail store that was like right across the parking lot. And back in the day, there would be a lot of Saturdays that I would go to work with my mom and be in Archery Country most of the day, either shooting my bow or, bugging these guys. They're probably sick of me, But I think what transitioned, I was actually at the one of my other jobs at the time, and Jake came in looking for something, and we chatted for a while, and like, I think he had talked to my parents a bunch and was like, hey, does your boy want a job? And that was the end of that. And never looked back.
And it hooked.
Yeah.
So now as we fast forward, and you've been here for a while, has there been any categories that have kind of set themselves, on our podium of first, second, and third? Like, you're also a very avid out west hunter, and you hunt here and very successful. And when I say here, the Midwest, whitetails doesn't, that category. What would be your, and I hate to even say this, but if you could only do 1 or 2 hunts a year, what would they be?
Oh, that's tough. Well, realistically, like before I started working here, I did one archery elk hunt, and I mean that fangs deep, just hooked in and never let go. And that was really, really cool. It was a fun experience. It was actually, I think, my first out of state hunt ever. And
Where was that at?
It was in Colorado, over the counter tag, with my dad and another guy. And I mean, it was just a riot to plan and lead up to it. And like, I had the junkiest of junk equipment possible as far as like camo and a pack and all that other stuff goes. But man, what a blast. Being in the mountains, hearing elk bugle, seeing like my first elk while I was hunting, it was intense. It was cool. We talk about like that adrenaline dump you get, and like even just the time spent out there and in creation, it was just awesome. And then like around here, hunt deer and go out west and I hunt mule deer and a little bit of everything. But if I had to pick one, I don't think I could.
That's the answer that I want. It's not, like we said, this isn't scripted. I don't know the answer when I'm asking these questions. With that being said, there is it's not really a new phenomenon, but kind of a newer thing in the last decade maybe, and that's shed hunting. I don't know if you want to talk about this or not. We're definitely not going to talk about where you go.
That's perfectly okay with me.
But this is, when we not, I wouldn't say, maybe not right now. I don't know much about shed hunting besides picking one up in a tractor tire once in a while.
Yep.
When do you start? Where do you go? Where, like, you actually travel to do this?
Yep. Yeah, it's another form of scouting too, for like be it the Dakotas or Kansas or Nebraska or Iowa or whatever. Wisconsin, I mean, everywhere there's deer. But like typically, late March, mid-March, sometimes as early as February. A lot of it depends on the year. I know of some guys that are talking about like bucks dropping already, but I'm not, and this is just my personal opinion, I'm not a big proponent of like going out now. I mean, deer are kind of in the worst condition they are all year. We have a ton of snow. It's been really cold. Don't really want to be like, I don't want to go out and like push them around right now. So on top of that, there's just so much snow to walk through. That sounds miserable. I'm not in that good of shape.
Makes sense. And then, so you're keeping these sheds, you're using it as a scouting tool.
Yeah, scouting tool, and just like, man, it's just a treasure hunt. It's, Brandon brought up like ice fishing for a second. But shed hunting is like, it's kind of like catch and release trophy hunting of deer. Like, there's just something that really strikes a chord with me to be like knowing that I'm standing exactly where this buck stood and his antler fell off right here. And it's just like, man, that deer lives here. This is so cool. And you get to pick it up, and every horn, every antler, they're all unique. There's like no two exact sets or replicas. They're just, I don't know. It's all these things that we do just for, the antlers, the meat, whatever. But the antler part is just, it's cool.
Yeah. I never really heard it put that way, but it makes a lot of sense.
And it's just fun to like spend more time where deer are. You can use it to learn more about, bedding here versus, different wind directions and why deer bed where they do. And it's a little different, different times of the year, obviously. They're where they bed in the winter might not be exactly where they're bedding all summer or all fall. But it's just really fun to spend time. You're always paying attention to trails, which direction they're traveling. And half the time I probably walk right by antlers because I'm like, oh, I should be looking in the trees. Like, oh yeah, that would be a great spot for a tree stand up there. And that's just constantly running through your head the whole time. And then all the other wildlife you see, it's fun to see the turkeys and the squirrels and the rabbits and all that other stuff and just be in it.
So do you have a shed dog?
No.
Is that, I honestly don't know. Is that, is it a pretty cool thing? Have you been with guys that use a dog? Is it not? Is it more rewarding on your air quotes treasure hunt if you're finding it, not having a tool? Or
I don't know. I've never actually been with someone that has a legit shed dog. I think it would be really interesting. I love seeing dogs work. I have like a pointing dog. I enjoy upland hunting as another outdoors passion. And dog work is really, really cool. It's something that also kind of strikes a chord with me. But I've never been with someone that has a shed dog. I've never seen one work. I think it'd be neat to. I don't ever plan on it having one. I don't know. It's just fun to go put the miles on yourself. And
then you do this not just in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
You're going other states that you're hunting, or is there some spots you go just as a guest, or is it all basically have a realm or a core to where you're going to be?
Yeah, we a lot of it is just as in like off-season scouting, and then also, you know, we go where we actually have hunted or plan to hunt, and it's a way to put boots on the ground without, like, you know, if a guy's going to go out hunting for 5, 6, 7 days, something like that on an out-of-state hunt, it's hard to justify spending, you know, that valuable time on something that you don't know if it's going to be like good or not. You know, and it's a 50-50. You could go there, it could be a gold mine. You could go there and burn a day, and now you only got 5 days left and go back to a different area. So it's pretty fun to go check out new areas. You know, a lot of times, like Brand said, with Onyx and everything this time of year, like right now on mine, I've kind of got a few shed trips going for the spring. And I've got like routes planned out already as far as like where I think I should walk, and then, you know, divert from there depending on like what you're seeing.
I'd have never thought that. Never thought that someone would pre-plan for a scouting / shed, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's just certain
Kinda
pieces I really want to get eyes on, and you know, you try and figure out, well, what route do you think would put you to where deer are that time of year coming off from food or whatever it might be, like bedding associated close to food that you can go and trounce through all of it and maybe pick up an antler 10 or 12 or whatever.
What is your best shed hunting trip? Maybe not even a trip situation. Like we all have target bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Have you stumbled across, you know, that he lived via trail cameras, or didn't shoot him and you seen him, like, without getting into it? You don't have to say numbers.
I found a really cool match set this past year. And then I was able to actually see the buck a few times this summer. And he went from like, oh, that's a really good buck to that's one of the best bucks I've ever seen alive. So it was pretty cool to actually see him a couple times. Never got to see him when I was hunting or anything like that, but it made me pass up a lot of deer this year to where, you know.
Starts of a storyline.
Yeah.
You know, a relationship, I guess you could say, in a sense, with an animal. I'm going to save the pro shop. I got some pro shop questions.
All right.
Like, we're going to save that. We're going to switch pages. Straight across from me is Mr. Adam Kramer. Like I said before, he's one of the newest members, but not new to archery at all. Adam, it's your turn. Your turn to talk. Where are you from originally? Give us your, I know this, so some of these questions are loaded, but I don't want to sound like that. Take us through the life of Adam Kramer in the archery world.
It all started with my parents. Of course, they were involved in archery. Actually, my dad, he used to breed cows artificially in northeast Iowa back in the 80s. He had a customer that would shoot while he milked cows. He'd shoot into the hay bales at the end of the barn, and while the milkers were doing their thing, he'd shoot. And then when the milkers needed to be changed, that's when he'd stop. And then my dad would be coming in to breed cows, and then he'd be in there shooting. And then they got to talking about it, and then he let him borrow that bow. This is back in the days of, if Kmart doesn't have it for archery equipment, you don't need it type thing. And so he shot a right-handed bow for years, and here he's left eye dominant. But then he got my mom involved because they were just a newly married couple, and they wanted something cheap to do, and archery kind of fit that bill. And so they used to shoot on Main Street in some old building. They had like a 20-yard 2D league, and that's how they got started. And they had a roommate that would do it with them. Along started coming kids. My oldest sister, Andrea, she's about 10 years older than me. She got involved into the 4-H program, the shooting sports. And so my dad got involved with that. And then along came my second sister, Amber. She took to the shooting sports a little bit, but she got into horses a lot. And me and her a lot closer in age, 6 years, but closer. And thank goodness I'm allergic to horses, or else I would have probably been going around and doing rodeos or riding horses. Yeah, or at least more of the horse side of being a cowboy.
Right.
But thank goodness, like I said, I'm allergic. And so I got to shooting. I remember the very first time I picked up a bow. I can't remember my first words I spoke as a human, but I remember the first time I shot a bow because I dry fired it. And 100,000 arrows later, I haven't done it again. But
that's great.
it was a brave bow, and it was one of those that we used to go to these shooting sports tournaments. And after all the big kids shot, I'd walk up there and I had my little hip quiver, and it'd go on my gym shorts and it'd pull them down. And the arrows were so long, they were those flu arrows, that when I was at full draw, they'd tickle my armpit. And that's how I got started. And then it just kind of worked as a progression. Like you see most people in archery, they get a cheap bow and they just start working through it as they show interest. My parents were really cool in the fact that they kept feeding us kids. Whatever our passion was, they kept bringing new opportunities in front of us. And my dad, he took on the shooting sports when we moved to Northeast Wisconsin, kind of over by Green Bay. He took over the Shawano County 4-H shooting sports program. It started out, all the stuff they had fit in the back of his Bronco 2. And then 2 kids would show up to practice. And then 15 years later, it got to where it was a 120 kid statewide invitational, 100 kids in the program type thing. And they got storage units now. And so it was cool that it was more of a timing thing and an opportunity. But then also when 4-H shooting sports wasn't going on, started getting into other tournaments, whether it's NFAA or just whatever was available. Just want to do more of it. And so we started going to that more. And again, Dad never pushed me. If I wanted to go a different route or do different sport, he'd support it. And that's how we started going to state invitationals and sectionals and nationals and then Vegas. And so all throughout my grade school years, that's all I remember doing was just shooting. Did some sports, but eventually quit sports so I could shoot more and then get a job so I could pay to shoot more. And we were going to like 3D scrambles, indoor 3D scrambles, which in Wisconsin, they're every weekend from January 1st to May 1st. And I couldn't even drive. And so guys, my teammates would pick me up from school, and then we'd go to Green Bay and Appleton and Oshkosh, and we'd go shoot. And then some of these venues were in a bar, and so they'd pass off as my parents so that we'd get by the bouncer. And 14, 15-year-old kid, that was life. Friday nights was just shooting with all these guys, and my parents would come and watch sometimes, and thank goodness there was a plexiglass, usually divider from like the bar area to the shooting range, because if they heard the way that we talked, I probably would have had a lot of soap in my mouth. But that to me was a blast. I was hanging out with people, shooting. That was my social life. It kept me out of trouble. And eventually it came to the culmination, like senior year, I was vice president of our archery club, which isn't nothing of fame and glory, but just super involved. And I got to borrow the targets, and for my graduation party, we had a 3D scramble in my backyard because all the people I invited were going to be people that I knew from archery, so might as well bring their bow. And so we had a scramble, and it was just a great time. And then when college came, kind of put it on the back burner. I went to River Falls for meat animal science, and cows were life. I mean, it was all about beef cattle and bulls and cows and heifers. I mean, just enraptured in it because that's what I wanted my career to be a part of. And once we got past that, got into a career working in central Minnesota, breeding cows just like Dad did. Archery was on the back burner. And then all of a sudden one day it just clicked where I wanted nothing to do with anything but archery. You know, there's a reason why it was part of my life for so much, and it was in such intensive type that I wanted to get back to that. I felt like I kind of lost that. And then it was all about podcasts and YouTube videos. And I think I listened to all the Archery Country podcasts in like 3 days and caught up on all those. And that's how I kind of got to come to Archery Country a little more. And eventually there was a position open, and I decided I want to change a lifestyle and enraptured in it and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, actually,
very good at it.
Can I touch on that just for a second? So I remember Adam coming in a few times. You know, I recognized him. Oh, yeah, that guy's been in shooting a little bit. Seemed like a good shot. And it was maybe, I don't know exactly, maybe it was 3 or 4 times you'd been in shooting. I don't think I'd really ever talked to you a whole lot, just a little bit, you know, say hi and that stuff. And one day we just got to talking, and your eyes, like, we were talking about archery and just whatever his interests were and who he was. And it was like when you come home and your dog's been, you know, at home all day and he's wagging his tail, like Adam's eyes just lit up. And he started talking about archery and shooting in a way that, like, I'd never even heard anybody talk about it. Like, you could just tell, holy cow, this guy, like, he just loves this. He he lives to shoot his bow, and any aspect of, you know, the mental process of it and the shooting form. And so I don't remember if I asked you if you wanted to work here or how we got to it, but I was like, we need that guy.
Yeah.
We need a guy like that in the store. Like, he loves shooting more than anybody I've ever met before in my life. And so that I think we offered you a job, whatever you took it.
Thank
But
goodness,
that's kind of how that started with Adam working here.
He, so in that weeks following or days following when you said we got a new guy, and we communicate every day between shops, and I'd heard the name Adam from Dan. He's a manager down at Rogers, and you and Dan are very close. And yeah, there's a new guy, Adam. He's going to be what we call split. So you're going to work at both shops when we need. And this is right before busy season. And it's kind of funny because in the target world, myself being a target archer, we've been to the same shoots, but we never visited. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of a prick when it comes to, like, I'm not an outgoing, when I'm at a shoot for a reason. Like, I shoot and then I leave, and I don't do the whole entourage of hanging out and getting food. And like, I don't know. And I have had some success, but it's just a little bit different. And Adam can attest to this. Like, when you're in the zone, I took it too far. Right. I didn't make a lot of friends. So Adam and I, we didn't know each other, but we were at the same shoots and there's a guy who comes into the shop, and target archers are a clique. Okay. When somebody walks in with a target rig, you either go, wanna be, or dude, he's shooting his score, and I'm like, God, I don't know this guy, but he looks the deal, he talks the deal,
He is the deal.
We went. You shot like 3 games, and then come over and visited by the front counter, and I said, I introduced myself.
I called you on the phone that morning. I said, hey, you got tack veins?
You did,
Is your range open? Yeah, it's just a 20-yard range. I'm like, well, I can't hit them all at that distance anyhow. So
the moral of the story is he's kind of playing us a little bit, but he comes in and very, very polite, and long story short, I'm like, hey, I'm Waite, and he goes, well, I'm Adam, and it's like a light bulb, and he's seen my face, and I went, like, Adam, that's part of Archery Country. He's like, oh yeah, that's me. Just bouncing around. We call him Stompy down in Rogers. But that's how our relationship started. Then you worked a lot with us down there, and great addition to Archery Country. Like you say, the passion. If you wanted to put a capital P on passion, you'd put Adam Kramer right behind it for shooting. Now you hunt. We didn't really talk. You didn't ever use the word hunt, or I shot my first deer or anything. Is that new? Is that newer? Or is it something that's going to be a passion? Where are we at on that road?
It's like I was shooting from day one, but I never really bow hunted till like 6th grade, and I never got like serious about it until high school, probably. And I'm not even serious where I was out there all the time. Just started going behind our house a little bit, never scouted. The first time I saw a deer with antlers, I thought they do exist. You see it on all the hunting shows and stuff like that, but I'm like, this thing's in my backyard. Like, I can see my house right there, and the pasture right here ends, and I'm sitting in this tree, and here's this 8-point buck and shooting them. It's just all happenstance.
Yeah.
But after that, just like how these guys said, when you have that encounter, that close-up encounter, the jitters and all that, and it's just, you hear that arrow hit that deer, and it's like nothing else you ever heard before, but you just want to repeat it. And there's something with the bow. I'd always gun hunted. Called coyotes and stuff like that, but yeah, never really bow hunted until high school. And then now with this job, everybody's excited about hunting season. It's super busy, so you don't get out a whole lot, but definitely get amped for it.
It's intoxicating is what it is.
It carries over.
It's kind of like an aroma that you don't smell when it gets into that August time. And for you guys, I mean, it's all year because we turkey hunt just as much as anything, but so, and that's a very, very cool story. But now, as we kind of progress into this pro shop life, we don't get the question a lot, but in my mind, and you guys speak freely on this, to me, this is the easiest job in the world. And I had the easiest job in the world before this. The pro shop life, and we can pick on, we're not going to point any fingers on that, but like what we see from day to day, it's such a great mix-up of you have your very serious, know more than you do about certain things, to your very, very first bow ever, have no clue shooting, to a bunch in the middle. Like, let's walk through the pro shop life just a little bit, just to make sure everybody understands. We have 3 different shops. There's one in Brainerd and off Old Highway 371, and there's one in Rogers, and then Waite Park here is the oldest location. So Buck and Jon and Adam, like, well, take us through a day at the pro shop. Busy season, obviously, is going to be crazy. But let's just dabble a little bit, if you guys don't mind talking about it. And then we'll incorporate our passions on how that makes us excel in different areas in the pro shop.
So, like, what are you getting at as far as every day? Just
so people see us for an hour to 3 hours at the max, right?
Yep.
And maybe once a year, maybe 3 times a year, maybe, once a week, I don't know. But people that are listening that think that, okay, I can get a bow from Shop X, or I can get a bow from Archery Country, or I can get an experience. I like to use the word experience. Right. It's one-on-one for the most part.
Well, and I think, as far as that goes, someone coming in for a bow, like just even going through, the 4 of us here talking, when you come in, I mean, there's differences in each one of us. Adam's super, super good and passionate about shooting, and you are too, Abe. Maybe more on the target side of that, where me and Jon don't do the competitions like you guys are doing, but we do a little bit more hunting maybe. And so when you come in, you're going to get a good mix of all of that. If someone's got a question about some type of target setup or something, and maybe, I know enough about it, but maybe Adam's here and I know he can help with that more, I can refer to Adam on that. And, same thing with Jon or you. And so I think that helps having just a different array of guys in the shop, where if you come in looking for a hunting setup, a target setup, maybe you're not even buying a bow, you just need an accessory. Mm-hmm. We have an array of guys that can help.
And that's perfect, nailed on the head. But that's only 30 seconds. Like, I want to dig deep. Like, okay,
woke up at 5:30 this morning to my coffee pot brewing. No, that's way too early.
No, but I mean, yeah, like, okay,
like alarm rings. That's where you want to start.
I'll give you a little scenario. All right, like my day at the pro shop. I drop my boys off at school at 7:30. They don't ride the bus because I live literally hop, skip, and a jump from school. It works out. I get done. Usually, I have a stop at the little mom and pa gas station, and I like that style, and I grab a breakfast sandwich and a cup of coffee, and I go to the shop. I'm there usually 8:15 to 8:30, which is an hour and a half before we open. So what do? I shoot. Mm-hmm. If it's my target bow, right now we're in indoor season, and I'm getting ready to set up a 3D bow. I shoot, and I shoot, for an hour. Then we kind of go through the protocol of getting the shop set up for the day. Right now, this is January 12th. When this is released, it'll be a couple days after this, but like we're not in the busiest time of the year. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of time. Like down there in Rogers, we're redesigning the shop and cleaning and taking inventory and seeing what we need to set up for this next season, which hunting season will be turkeys. But, we're deep with target archery down there. So we're getting things in and we're switching things around, and leagues are huge. One of the biggest numbers that we've had ever in Rogers. So we're taking care of that and cleaning the range. And then every time that door opens, whatever we're doing at that time stops, unless we're with the customer. Then we, address this, whatever the may be. If they're purchasing, cool. If not, if they're just coming in with a coffee shop feel and they want to visit, we do that. And then, we round up the day. We're in winter hours, so it's 10 to 6. League nights, we open, our Thursdays, we down in Rogers. I don't know if you guys, Thursday nights, we stay open till 8. But there's a lot more of what we're doing right now. We're visiting. I've had more conversations in the last 3 weeks with guys about their Arizona hunt or what they're going on. And we're reliving hunts, and that's what keeps us going through this time, because when we hit June, and you guys can attest to this, especially you and or Buck and Jon, I'm pointing at you like they can see you. But when June and July and August and September hit, there's no time. It's you come in early and you're doing restrings and you're fixing stuff and you're getting ready for that plus sales, and then you're staying 11:30, 12,
right?
Depending on the night. So busy season is sometimes you come in and we look like weathered cattle. It's but that the only thing, and I agree with me or disagree with me, the only thing that drives us through those 4 months is our passion.
Right.
We wouldn't, and you guys have seen it well, guys that don't have the passion, they don't last long in this career at all. So what are you guys doing? Obviously a manager role is a little different than Adam and I, where's your attention to detail, and what are you going through? And then we'll talk a little bit, we're getting down here to the end of it. We'll talk a little bit about what we've seen in the shops that can, it's going to be fun. You know, like I was going to ask Adam, when he dry fired his bow, did he go to the pro shop and say, oh, the strings just fell off?
My buddy did it. Biggest buck I ever seen. It happened, just blew up.
So, I mean, Brandon, like look, your day.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously every day changes, but.
Right. Yeah, every day is a little different. Right now we're kind of similar to you guys. We're in our slower time, so we're doing some inventory. We got leagues going on. Adam's got some shooting classes and lessons going on. You know, and different days, some days are busier where you're not getting some of that other stuff done. And just, like right now, it's fun when people come in to purchase something because you've got the time to talk about how was their hunting season, what trips did they go on. I love that. Mm-hmm. So for me, every time I get to talk to someone right now, it's instead of during the busy time of the year where, what do you need? Let's get it done. And that's it. You know, you got to move on to the next person because everybody's waiting. Everybody wants their stuff. This time of year, it's more enjoyable where you get to talk to that person and what are they going to be doing this year? What did they do last year? How did the hunt go? What's the story? You know, so that's fun. I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, just hearing people's success stories. You know, we set them up with something or maybe we didn't even set them up with something, but we helped them. We gave them some advice and it worked out. And they came into the shop to just tell us their success story. But as far as day-to-day go, right now there's not, other than inventory and leagues, it's, just helping people when they come in and cleaning the shop, getting it organized. We're ordering stuff, new products coming out this time of year, ATA show. Jake just got back from that. So we'll be getting kind of the 411 on the new products out there, and a lot of that stuff will be arriving soon. So a lot of what we're doing now too when the new products come in is we're testing. We're getting to know the product so that when someone comes in and they're looking at them and they got questions, we know the product. So a lot of that too this time of year is the product testing and us getting the knowledge on that product base so that when it does get busy, we've got it down.
Yeah, it's second. It just rolls off your tongue.
Yep.
Like it. It's in the back of your mind. You guys have a gentleman here by the name of Nate that is now we kind of open up a new chapter in Archery Country with these. We've always done some videos.
Right.
But now some very nice videos. He came down to Rogers and Dan and Jack did some. Is that something that you guys are doing more and more of?
Yeah, Adam just did a bow build video the other day, which is going to be pretty sweet. We saw a little teaser video that quality wise was much more than I expected.
That all going on our YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
So we'll all have at least all of us have multiple bows, whether it's 2 or 3 or whatever. But every one of us will have some type of video, I believe, coming out with one of our bow builds. Mm-hmm. Which will be kind of cool.
And in depth, too. Like
it has to be. Social media is, like it or leave it, and I'm not here to judge, but it's the mainstream of most things, especially archery. Take it with a grain of salt on what you're watching. But, you watch, like on YouTube, we talked about the YouTube channel, you watch how many views, and then pretty soon you watch a video like Buck just did one, and you didn't do a bow build, but you're talking about the V3X29 and a 33, and all of a sudden you go over the weekend after the release, and we went from 800 views to 18,000 or whatever. I mean, my 1,800, sorry. People are watching. People are using it rather than getting in the truck and coming to the pro shop and going through that. They can watch a 4-minute video and have an idea. And John, have you done your 2022 build yet?
Not yet. Still waiting on my bow. Every accessory is literally just sitting in a bag up there right now, and I'm just waiting on the bow. So I'm, chomping at the bit. But going back to the YouTube thing, like this time of year with like ATA, that's like where my mornings and evenings are starting right now. I'm actually going through and like watching videos from the ATA show of like what products came out, like what piques my interest, what, looks like a piece of junk or plastic, whatever, so that's kind of where it all starts. And, it's a year-round thing. We're constantly trying to improve, like, my own self from shooting. What could help me be a little better? Is it, just the form part of it? Or it's like, okay, yes, this rest or this sight or this quiver, whatever is going to improve my experience, be it either on the range or hunting.
And I think that's because we're all humble, we're not going to say, but one of the key thing that sets us apart from a big box store maybe is we're not just seeing the product on the shelf and then setting it up and learn. Like you just said, you're studying things already before you ever have it in your hands. Mm-hmm. And then when you guys get the product in your hand, you're testing it. You're not just putting it on and saying, oh, this works. You're putting it in different situations, like, where is this going to work the best, you know? IMX rest versus a limb driven, like a 2-pin sight versus a fixed 5-pin. Like, let me give you a scenario where this is going to be better than this. And that's something that woke me up. And I've always been Rogers. I've come to Waite Park and didn't, back when you were on that end, you had like the big, you know,
Old
the ladder.
school.
Yeah. And I don't remember who I worked with, and it doesn't matter, but there was like, I was almost overwhelmed with the knowledge that they had. They put situations out in front of me that I never have thought about ever. I've hunted forever, but not serious, like, until I would say the last 5 years, like, okay, this is the new step, not just shooting a paper target or a foam 3D target, like hunting. Well, where am I going to go for knowledge? Like, where am I going to go for guys that have actually been in a situation that's going to work? And that's how, you know, things started. But like you say, you're doing some research, product and development. You know, we don't have to really worry about that. We just take the product and then see if it's legit or not legit. And we're kind of blessed, I guess, in the sense as we have an owner that shares the same passion as we do. So he's not going to just bring something in that looks good. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
But in Adam, we talked, like, right now you're doing classes.
Yep.
And you're the instructor here at Waite Park. That is a huge benefit, not only to the shop, but also to archers in general. Like you brought up your parents in the 4-H. I don't remember what you called it.
Shooting sports?
Shooting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was kids your own age and you felt comfortable and done that. And we offer classes, and how has that been?
Good. No, really good. Kind of in the pilot program of it. It's their first month of offering it in quite a while, but trying to keep it interesting, building on what they learned the week before, but trying to have fun. And I think even the parents that overhear it, they're like, wow, I really should work on that part of my form too. Because that's what I'm trying to teach, is building blocks that are going to transmit no matter what kind of bow you have. It's the building blocks. But kind of going back to the pro shop, my thought of a pro shop and what it should be before working at Archery Country and after is totally different. Growing up, I went to a guy's basement. He looked at my bow, put an arrow on there, looked down the center shot. Oh, good to go. And that's why I thought tuning a bow was. And then coming to here, I thought, you know, they probably don't know a whole lot about target archery, and maybe I should get all my stuff online. But after starting here and talking to these guys, there's so much knowledge between you and Dan and Jon and Buck and just tuning in general. And you guys have seen everything. And what's cool, I thought about this on the way in, is you could go to any store of ours and say, build me a bow the way you would use it for hunting. And everybody's going to set it up a little different in terms of accessories. If you walked in with the same list of accessories in the bow and said, build me this rig and make me successful, every one of our employees are going to follow your instruction and are going to have the same successful outcome. And that's one thing that I really pride myself on at Archery Country, is just how professional, and they just get it done. Yeah. And they're trusted. So,
because, I mean, the outcome 99% of the time is the same for the end consumer. Mm-hmm. They're more accurate, more forgiving setup. And I think, I mean, that's a perfect way to put it. And it all dials back to that word passion. Mm-hmm. I don't care about taking the garbage out, so I could never be a garbage man. You know what I mean? It doesn't work for me. I couldn't sell shoes because I don't care about it. I think we got it there. Okay, one little thing, as we got 2 minutes left before we got to get you guys to work. The coolest and the weirdest thing in the shop that you've seen, and we're going to be careful. We're not going to point any fingers. I might say a name, but like you, I assume I'll go first. Okay, with the coolest thing. And it's one of the weakest sales that I've had as far as numbers. Gentleman come in and could not figure out broadheads, fixed blade. I asked him what he was doing. Strictly hunting whitetails, heavy timber, longest shots 30 yards. I said, okay. I said, you can shoot a fixed blade. We got to do the tune, or you can, expandables and fixed blades is a huge democracy that we go back and forth on. Bought an expandable, pack of them. His bow tuned perfect. We went over 20 yards. He hit the dot with a field point. And he shot some bucks, but he shot 185-inch deer. the deer went 10 yards. Now, could he have done that with a fixed blade? Absolutely. But he purposely came in. He stood in line. This was before Christmas for 10, 15 minutes. He come to the counter. I said, hey, can I help out? Who's next? And I said, hey, Charlie, you know, good to see you again. He goes, Wade, all I want to do today is just show you a picture and say thank you. Shook my hand, told me a little 30-second story, and walked out. He stood in line for 20 minutes to show me that. And now I've probably been here, well, I've been with Archery Country for 2 years, but that was the coolest thing that I've had. It wasn't a bow sale. It wasn't a tree stand sale. It wasn't Sitka. It was a pack of broadheads that made his hunt successful. You know, and after he left, I went, dude, I've never went to my truck dealer and said, hey, because you sold me that truck, I was like, he actually took time out of his day to do that. Super cool.
Yeah, cool.
One of the weirdest things I seen, this is a long, long list, but I seen a drop-away limb-driven rest mounted on the front of the riser with the cord going through the sight to the top limb, and it worked. I don't know how, we laughed, we shared some videos, and then I shot it just to be, I went, oh my God. So it was a left-handed rest on a right-handed bow mounted backwards. So put that in your picture and think about it over coffee.
A little bit longer arrow to make that successful.
I'm going to go with the funniest because I can't really think of the other one. There's too many, as far as the good stuff, I'd be leaving too many people out.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
So I'm going to go with the funniest thing that I can personally remember. And this was a lot of years ago. If you've ever been into our store, our little demo range where you can test fire bows, see what you like. And there was a while where Jake had a couple deer heads hung on that range. And when you're standing there, the first deer head would be almost straight above you, just maybe 1 or 2 feet in front of you, but just straight up above. And had a new time archer come in. He was trying some bows and maybe he was trying to drop too much weight back. Bow was pointed up at the ceiling and accidentally hit the trigger. And the arrow stuck right into the neck of one of Jake's deer. And Jake was actually here that day, and he was close enough by where he seen this happen. And, I think the customer was like, oh, my God, what did I just do? I just shot someone's, a nice deer, right? Yep. There's an arrow sticking in the deer neck. And Jake looked over and he said, well, you're the first guy to shoot a pup and young deer this year. So he wasn't mad at all. He was real cool with it. Yeah. But just the reaction from from Jake and the customer, it was pretty funny. But
oh, that's a great one. John? Funniest or the coolest?
Well, going back to what you said with guys bringing in pictures and just coming back to thank you. Again, there's just, I can't even pick one out. It's
right.
That to me, that's one of the coolest parts is being able to help guys in what our biggest passion is, and either helping them be more successful or be it a successful hunt or even a non-successful hunt. Giving advice on things we don't even sell as far as some of the backcountry stuff, some, tents, water systems, whatever, stuff that I've used that I can, recommend to people, even though we don't carry them, but try to help them out as much as we can in any aspect. Yeah. And just having guys come back sincerely thankful. And that part is just awesome. It's fun interacting with people all day long, and, you get the good, the bad, the ugly. We're pretty fortunate in this job or this industry that very rarely do we get the ugly. Guys are usually pretty happy to come into the archery store, so that part's pretty awesome. I don't know. I don't even know. I can't top that. You shoot a mounted buck and shoot the first Pope and young deer of the year. That's, I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff and funny stuff that we see come in, but I don't know. The list is just too long to even pick one out that is shareable.
Adam, I don't remember what month you started. May. Mm-hmm. So just not in your career, but in just your Archery Country career. So from May until January today, I know you're laughing. I don't know if you're going to tell the story that I think you're going to tell, but I'll ask you afterwards.
Is it about the embark?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I guess I wasn't, but...
Okay. But tell what you're going to.
Okay.
Tell me what you're going to tell.
I guess the coolest thing is when somebody comes in and they're facing maybe it's target panic.
Mm-hmm.
Just something isn't jiving. and they're not shooting the way they want. And when you take time on the range with them, you don't tell them a single thing. You maybe adjust draw length, or you help with like a little bit of a mental execution process, and it just clicks. And like archery's not stressful for me anymore. They want to shoot leagues. They want to go shoot with their buddies. They're not afraid to shoot around people. Yeah. And they're just enjoying archery. That's probably the coolest thing. And there's no certain case of that. It's kind of well-rounded, a lot of those. Some of the funniest things, we take the time with crossbows to teach everybody how to properly use them. And ravens in particular, you got to click the knock on the string. Mm-hmm. There's so many times we get a call from a guy out in the blind saying my $3,000 bow won't fire. Mm-hmm. And you try to explain to them, just make sure that's all clicked on, and it's still not firing. They bring it in, and you about know the entire script of what they're going to say. And that one time we had a customer.
Your wife was here.
My wife was here, and because the guy called the day before, and I said, or John answered the phone and went through it all and said, well, we'll just bring it in tomorrow and we'll help you out. And I told my wife that night, I said, this is exactly what's going to be said, verbatim. And it was Christmas Eve, so she came in the next day. We were going to go somewhere straight from work. And the guy's here 15 minutes before we open, knocking on the door, comes in, and almost as he was reading off that script I wrote the night before. And Nate takes him on the range, clicks it onto the bow, it fires, and there's just that pause of, no way.
That's the rated, the PG version.
Very
usually,
PG.
yeah.
Very
usually
PG.
It's not that. It's yeah. It's guys. I think this is a blast. We actually talked about doing a podcast, just pro shop talk. I don't know if we're ever going to do that. But we want some more ideas from you guys. We got some pretty cool setups where we're going to maybe throw a couple of these on video, so you can kind of put a face with a voice. And then we're going to do a big podcast. We got a gentleman that works with us now, Troy, that's a musician, and he's got some equipment, and we're going to get, it's hard to do a podcast with 6-8 guys, but I think we can do it with the mentality of it. And then, of course, we're going to have some of the new products coming out and some reviews on it. And our YouTube video, we are actually doing not only bow builds, but also reviews. So there's going to be a wealth of information out there. We appreciate each and every one of you listening to this podcast. There's more to come. On behalf of everybody, Archery Country Podcast, we'll see you on down the road.
Thank you for listening to Archery Country Podcast.